everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Football a la Turca. This is going to be a weekly episodic cast about the Turkish Football Super League. That's the top flight in Turkey. We're going to be focusing mainly on that league, but we'll also be talking about the Turkish clubs in Europe and from time to time, of course, the national team as well. So I'm going to introduce my co-hosts first. I have two of them because we wanted to divide the club affiliations a little bit. I'm going to start off with Burak Sezgin from England. Burak, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Kaan. Just a little introduction about myself to all the listeners. My name is Burak Sezgin. I'm 38, born in London, so second generation Turk, born here. Avid fan of Fenerbahçe. I have been since, I'd say, the mid-90s, mid to early 90s, and supported them through thick and thin. At the moment, it's very thin, as my fellow Fenerbahçe fans can imagine. And I'm looking forward to talking about the league with yourself and Ozzy.
And that transitions us in perfectly to the next introduction. Özer Dindjer, also from the UK in London. Özer, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Kaan. Yeah, my name's Özer, although most people call me Ozzy. And you might know me from Twitter as Red and Yellow under the name Atakos. I'm a Galatasaray supporter, born in London also, but I've actually been living in Dublin for the last 12 months or so. Although you might find me just sipping a beer in a random European square based on my recent Twitter feed. So yeah, looking forward to being part of the show. Really excited to have the three of us here talking about our clubs. So let's get the ball rolling, so to speak.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm quickly going to introduce myself as well. My name is Kaan. I'm from Belgium. I'm a Beşiktaş supporter. So with that, we have a Beşiktaş, a Fenerbahçe, and a Galatasaray supporter. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And for you, the listener, it's up to determine which one is which. I'm 30 years old. I just turned 30. And like I said, I'm from Belgium. And I've been following Turkish football for 2 decades or more since I was quite young. And I've been covering the league as a freelance sports writer for the last 5 years or so. But I'm a big Beşiktaş fan, as some of you might already know, and that's all I'm going to have to say. So let's get right into it. Let's start off with the European campaigns. We still have 2 Turkish clubs that are active in Europe right now, one of which is Fenerbahçe, and Fenerbahçe already played last Tuesday against Zenit St. Petersburg, and they did well. They beat Zenit 1-0 at home. Let's get into that a little bit. Burak, did you manage to catch the game?
Yes, I caught the game. We have a channel called BT Sport here in the UK, and because I get my internet via the same company, I get the sports channel for a discounted rate. So that channel shows all of the Europa and Champions League games. So I managed to watch all of our qualifying campaign. I was actually in Istanbul to see us beat Spartak Trnava 2-0 back in October. One of the worst games I've ever seen live. I say it's horrendous, even though I think Slimani got both of our goals that day. So he does have a use sometimes. And he ended up scoring against Zenit last week, and actually a really well taken goal. I think it came from a cross or a corner. He went up for a header, missed it, but then as he was falling down, he managed to adjust his feet and slot the ball in underneath the goalkeeper. So that was nice for him. You know, it's not nice for he's probably not having a good time at the moment. Definitely not compared to his Sporting Lisbon days when he was scoring headers for fun.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned Kaan as well, that he just didn't get the service in Leicester, and for the best part of the season, the best cross or set piece taker for Fenerbahçe has been Hasan Ali Kaldırım, which is not the best of options to have. And then Ekici came back, he got injured, which is just very Mehmet Ekici thing to happen. But I felt the first half that we played good attacking football. There was some good energy. Bless the fans for being there and cheering the team on. And all going well in the first half. Probably should have converted more chances, and that's just a lack of cutting edge in the final third from both Moses that day, and I'm still not sold on Ayew. I just think he's a bit of a headless chicken, run, no end product, even though he has managed to...
against Besiktas, of course.
well, you know, the thing is, the big games, he kind of pops up and, like, you know, sends a reminder that, you know, this is what you're paying me for, almost, you know. So we'll wait and see what happens next Monday in the derby against you guys as well, to see what he does then.
I hope he remains a headless chicken for that night. But like you said, Islam Slimani, a rarity, pops up in front of the goal and actually gets one in the 21st minute. And it really was all Fenerbahçe in the opening 40 minutes or so. Özer, I don't know if you managed to catch the game.
I did actually. And I would say it's probably Fener's best game all season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I agree with Burak that maybe it should have scored second or maybe third goal during that match to really kill the tie off. But I was very impressed with the show from Fener that evening.
Yeah, and it was really a shame that it didn't happen, but, you know, disaster could have struck as well, because a couple of minutes before halftime, of course, Zenit popping their nose at the window for pretty much the first time all game, and they immediately win themselves a penalty. But who else than Harun Tekin, the penalty killer from Bursaspor, who's now, of course, playing for Fenerbahçe, stops it in spectacular fashion. He manages to get his arm to it, I think, and it pops up against the bar, the top bar, and then he still manages to pounce back on before anyone can come and rebound it in. And that was really most of the danger from Zenit throughout the game. You could really notice that I think they hadn't played a competitive match in over a month or so. That's always the disadvantage Russian clubs have coming out of, well, for us, the winter break, and which is, I guess, for them too, or whatever it is. But those early January, February games in Europe, which is always in February, I'm not sure why I'm saying January, but those are always tough for them to get through. That's also, I think, why you don't see them go so far in Europe so frequently. Maybe a little bit of a wasted opportunity for Fenerbahçe to really get a good result, a 2 or a 3-0, and maybe put the tie beyond Zenit St. Petersburg, given the proportions of this match, how well they dominated, and how little we saw of Zenit.
I agree with that. I mean, second half came around and we fell off the pace a little bit. I think we lacked that little bit of creativity in midfield. Obviously, we were missing Ekic'i for that match, and obviously with Benzia being Benzia and being out of the squad, we hadn't registered to be Hazites to play. I think the players we registered were Sadık, Tolgay, and Moses. And obviously Tolgay got injured in the warm-up. Bless him. Out for a month. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So no worries. I'm sure he'll, hopefully have a few good games a little bit later in the season. But so we just lacked that, which we've lacked all season really. That killer final ball, that killer final finish. We've seen it all season from players like Ayew squandering chance upon chance, Slimani squandering chances. I mean, I can't remember any really amazing chances we had to get a second goal, to create it, despite all the pressure we had on them. But taking a positive out of it, it was one of the best I've seen us play all season. But that's something we need to keep up for the 90 minutes rather than the 45. I think Moses has invigorated the squad with his pace and his hunger. I still think he's got a bit of a rusty first touch, and when he's starting his dribbles, they almost seem a little bit rusty and fortuitous sometimes when he goes past people. But he's not been playing regular football for Chelsea since the start of the season at all. So it's good to have that injection of pace, and of course he follows the long line of Nigerian heritage that we've had in our team. Maybe save for Emenike, who didn't have the best of times, but before him we had some great Nigerian players. So he mentioned that he'd spoken to Emenike as well about coming to Fenerbahçe. But like I say, it's got to be tough going to St. Petersburg in that climate. The players trying to adjust to that weather, the fans as well in Russia. So it's going to be tough.
I think it'll be tough also because Zenit have a very strong home record this season in Europe. I think they've won every match in the Europa League so far. So that they will probably be relying on getting a good result at home and defending well and sneaking a win there. So I'm just curious what you think, how you think Fener should approach the match in terms of what kind of style of football they should play. Maybe hold on to the 1-0 or maybe play a little bit more open.
I would play open. I'd be, I wouldn't defend because, even though I love Sadek to bits, but he has looked a little bit sketchy at times. Maybe he's still trying to settle in. I think Serdar Aziz looks really good. The few times I've seen him, he clearing a ball, clearing his lines. He's looked quite solid, but I don't think we've picked him for our squad, the Europa squad. I don't think so. He can't play. So you're looking at Skirtle, Sadek, Hasan Ali Kaldırım, and Isla as a back four, and I would go there and attack. I wouldn't be too defensive. I think from what I've seen from Ersun Yanal, and his teams in the past when he's coached us previously, he's an attacking coach, and I would just go out and attack them.
Yeah, he doesn't defend. I mean, that's not what he does well. We knew him for his kamikaze football, of course, in that last championship you guys won. But yeah, let's close it down here. A tough game for Fenerbahce ahead, but they definitely have a good position. They're going into that second leg 1-0. Let's get to the other team that's still active in Europe. Let's get to Galatasaray, and they didn't boat so well, Uzi. They unfortunately didn't manage to keep the result home. This match was played on Thursday, as most Europa League games are. The Fenerbahce match, of course, was played on Tuesday. But Galatasaray lose at home 1-2 to Benfica. After basically coming behind quite early in the first half and then managing to pull things level via their new transfer Luyendama, who's already scored his, I believe, his second goal for the club now. And then, of course, 10 minutes later or so, Benfica take the lead again. But Özer, did you manage to catch the game?
Well, actually, I was flying to Madrid at the time of kickoff, which was the time exactly with my takeoff flight. So unfortunately, I missed the game live. But I've seen very extended highlights since then. And actually, I managed to catch the last 5 minutes or so when I landed. But I was hugely disappointed by the result and the performance. If I was going to watch both games, both the Fenerbahce game and the Galatasaray game, kind of in black and white, I would have thought that the first match was Galatasaray playing at home, playing great, exciting football, and I would have expected Fenerbahce to have got the result that we got, to be honest, based on how form had been going for the last few months. So I was extremely disappointed.
What did you think of the penalty, both of you? What were your guys' take on it? Was it it was a handball? We can say that, but was it deliberate? Was it a penalty for you guys?
Well, exactly. This is the age-old question. It's a handball in the box, yes, but was it deliberate? Which is strictly the rule. So I don't think it was a deliberate handball at all, and therefore I'd say it was a very harsh penalty, which kind of took the sting out of our momentum to start with. What do you make of it, Burak?
Well, I didn't actually see the game. I was out for Valentine's Day, so
okay, that's understandable, Burak. I completely understand that.
So I saw the result, and I thought, that's a bit shit. Because it's good to see. I want the Turkish teams to do well, so the coefficient points go up.
Yeah, for sure.
So we can have
likewise. Yeah.
So we can hang on to our points. And I think both these teams, Fenerbahce are more than capable of beating Zenit, and Galatasaray are more than capable of going to Benfica and getting a result.
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely, it's not impossible for us to go there and win. I think 2008 or so, we did exactly that. I went to Benfica's ground and beat them 2-0. I think Umut Karan had a goal one day, and I can't remember the other striker. But nonetheless, it's happened before, and there's no reason why it can't happen again. We are a good team. We have a decent squad, and it's only a 1-goal deficit. It's just that I'm not sure if in the next couple of days we can become mentally prepared enough, especially with our new signings. We can become integrated enough to be able to pull that off. That's my fear. And Benfica have been on extraordinary form since they signed the new coach. So I don't know if they're going to be kind of in a position at home to basically implode in the way that we need them to.
Yeah, they have looked very formidable in recent weeks, months, coming off some disappointing 2 seasons or so for them, because Porto, of course, winning the league last year, and they were quite far behind Porto again, but they've closed the gap recently. Of course, they had that emphatic 10-0 win just before their game away at Galatasaray, but I did feel I kind of share your thoughts there on the penalty. I thought it was very harsh. I think that Marcao, I think it was, he was initially, he had this attacker in front of him, and that guy went and fell, trying to earn a penalty, I guess.
Yeah.
And then it kind of hit his arm. He couldn't really know that ball was coming there. I thought it was very very harsh too. But Galatasaray did have the momentum before that, the opening 20 or so minutes. And then after the goal, of course, it did take kind of the wind out of their sails, but then they got back into it through Luyendama in the second half really early on, and I thought this was going to be the chance for them to go up and over Benfica, but I don't know, Benfica...
Yeah, exactly. That kind of resurgence at the end of the second half didn't really come about. We thought when Luyendama got the equaliser, the fans would get behind the team and all the players would suddenly kind of spring to life. But it didn't really happen that way, and that was the deflating part of it for me. It wasn't, I mean, as well as the result, it was kind of the failure to wake up at the second part of the second half, which really disappointed me.
Yeah, and Benfica, of course, in great form, but left quite a few of their key players at home, weren't in their strongest lineup. I personally expected Galatasaray to get a good result here myself. When we initially saw the draw of both Zenit and Benfica, I think we all kind of probably had the idea of that's going to be tough. But then heading into those games, Fenerbahçe kind of having a little bit of a resurgence, although the last 2 episodes in the league haven't been too positive. But they had those back-to-back wins at home, and Yanal did seem to get a little bit of a spring in their step again. So I definitely could have seen them pull off a result, given that Zenit also have that long break. And then Benfica, I really thought Galatasaray were at least at home going to get at least a draw or so, which would have been a disappointment perhaps. But
absolutely, and I said that exactly the same thing on Twitter, that call me arrogant, but I would have been disappointed and upset if we'd drawn the match.
Yeah.
So my shock and horror when I saw that we were 2-1 down at home, I mean, really, I'm still not over it, to be honest.
I don't think it's arrogant at all. I mean, it's Galatasaray who have an incredible home reputation in the league. They haven't lost in I don't know how long.
It's been about 650 days since we last lost at home in the league.
It's more than 2 years. It's incredible. Well, not There goes my amazing math skills. But let's move over to the Super League. Let's move on to Friday's result. It was Beşiktaş away at Yeni Malatyaspor, and Beşiktaş come away with the victory there, 1-2, after taking the lead early in the second half. But before that, we already saw a red card for Yeni Malatyaspor's attacker Adem Büyük, who was sent off through VAR after he had initially received a yellow card for planting the sole of his boot in Jermaine Lens's hamstring. That was in the 38th minute. Beşiktaş took the lead then in the second half through Atiba Hutchinson, but Yeni Malatyaspor got back into it through Ömer Şişmanoglu, of course, scoring against his ex-club. But again, just a couple of minutes later, Adem Ljajic gets Beşiktaş back in front, kicks the corner flag, gets himself a yellow card, and then he is suspended for the derby because he is not so bright. But Beşiktaş do get their 4th win in 5 games away at Malatyaspor. Very difficult match. They had previously beaten, I believe, Fenerbahçe 1-0, Galatasaray 2-0, and Trabzonspor 5-0. So definitely not an easy away game, although it does have to be said that Malatyaspor were weakened this past January, lost a couple of key players, of course, with Sadik going to Fenerbahçe, Boutaïp leaving, and they were also without their new transfer, Abubakar Kamara from Fulham, who was injured. Their goalkeeper was suspended, their starting goalkeeper, although I do have to say that their replacement played an incredible game. He saved, I think, like 4 or 5 100% one-on-one opportunities. He had a great, fantastic match. I don't know if any of you caught this game.
I caught just the highlights of that, unfortunately, but it did sound like the goalkeeper had a really extraordinary game. I just read a few things on Twitter at the time about that. So I think Beşiktaş could have been 3-4 had it not been that goalkeeper on the day.
Same. I saw the highlights on beIN Sports and just thought it was a really good, solid performance by Beşiktaş. Great result. Obviously, quite happy that Leitch got booked because he's not going to be playing against us because we need all the help we can get right now. I don't know how he managed to shatter the corner flag. I don't know what type of boots that man is wearing, but they completely, like, almost John Wicked it completely in half. But I think you said like Adem Büyük was one of your ex academy players, wasn't he?
Yeah, he is indeed. And I do have to say that every time he plays against Beşiktaş, I do have the feeling he plays with a huge chip on his shoulders. And I can kind of relate, probably. Not really relate, but I can understand where he's coming from. I mean, never really got a fair look at Beşiktaş, despite coming from the academy. I mean, if a guy like Mustafa Pekdemir can earn his living at Beşiktaş for as long as he has, then why wouldn't a guy like Adem Büyük be able to do that? So I get it, but he just channels it quite poorly. I don't know if you guys saw the position and what you thought about it.
I do think Büyük is actually a very talented player, but like you say, it's just his attitude kind of always got in the way of him being able to funnel that down and to be able to become a kind of focused, well-rounded player. But he definitely has raw talent, I'd say.
What did you guys think of the red card position?
I didn't actually see it. I just saw it on the app I use, Live Soccer Scores. So I think I was out that night as well. So I saw the highlights, but I didn't watch the extended coverage of the red card. So I'm going to Arsene Wenger and say I didn't see it.
What about you, Ozzy? Did you catch it?
I'm going to have to be honest and agree there and say the same.
Okay.
But judging by recent red cards in the Turkish league, I'd say I probably disagree with it.
I thought it was a pretty solid red. I mean, I think it was Lenz who was on just near the halfway line, passing the ball back to the defender, and he just, he's in between the ball and Adem just, I don't know, for some reason he just goes and puts his foot on top of the hamstring. Was just like, completely unnecessary. It wasn't like to break down an attack or anything. It just felt like a moment of, I'm gonna, when sometimes those players do that, like step on a guy's foot just because they're a little frustrated. It kind of just felt like that moment of frustration where he was gonna let his presence be felt. And unfortunately with VAR, for guys like this, unfortunately for them, you can't really do that anymore because you're gonna get caught. Although we might get to some other stuff later where apparently VAR has an on and off switch as well. But let's move on to Saturday, the Saturday results. The first one is Akhisar against Ankaragücü, and that one ended all square 0-0. Neither team really, that's not a great result for neither team really. Akhisar, staying dead bottom at the table, and Ankaragücü also in the relegation zone now with that result with 24 points, and Akhisar just 18 points. Not much to say really about this match. I don't know if either of you caught it.
No, nothing really to add to that. It's just that I hope that Ankaragücü are able to pull themselves out of this troubled time, because they're a great club with heritage and a good fan base, and I believe a brand new stadium as well, which opened a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully they can pull themselves out of this.
I'd like to echo the thoughts of Ozzy there. So my mum's from Ankara, so I've always got a fondness for that team. I saw my first Fenerbahçe match against Ankaragücü back in the late 80s, early 90s, when I went to see them with my family when we were on holiday. And we had all the hoo-ha with Ankaraspor, and then Ankaragücü have come back. So it's good to see them in the league, and like Ozzy says, they've got a nice bit of history and heritage behind them. So, but if it's a choice between Fenerbahçe and Ankaragücü, of course I'm going to say Fenerbahçe, and that's the kind of conversation we're having this season,
yes,
which is quite.
You might really have to make that decision in a few months' time.
Yeah, we're of course picking up here on match day 22. So for the remainder of the season, it's probably going to be a lot of glee from Ozzy and myself about Fenerbahce's precarious position. But I do have the feeling that they might be quite formidable next season, though. But yeah, not much to add really here. It is one of the few games I didn't manage to catch this weekend. I did watch at least a part of the next game, which was Bursaspor against Çaykur Rizespor. And Çaykur Rizespor, a team that's really having a resurgence. They made some great transfers in January, and they've been on a roll lately. They get the win 2-0 and away at Bursaspor. Bursaspor with that result also just 24 points, if I'm not mistaken, very close to that relegation zone. They're in danger of going down, and it's not the first time the last couple of seasons. And did you guys manage to catch what happened with Yusuf Erdogan in the game?
No, I
didn't. I'm curious to hear now the way you've set that up. Yeah, please tell us.
Quite spectacular. He was being booed by his own fans, I think around the 30-minute mark or so, and he demanded to be taken off by coach Samet Aybaba. Just wanted to walk off the pitch, a little bit reminiscent of Eminike a couple of years ago against Beşiktaş in the derby, where he just walked off. But Yusuf kept his shirt on, though. But yeah, very, very out of character, perhaps. But Yusuf kind of, in my opinion, being one of their best players in recent weeks. And the fans turning against him here because things aren't really going their way. I get where he's coming from, but of course, yeah, walking off the pitch, that's not the most professional thing. But Çaykur Rizespor get the win here. Very important win for them because that moves them out of the relegation zone for the moment. And that's at a disadvantage of another club, Ankaragücü, of course, who dropped down now.
And Rizespor have won 4 of the last 5 games, so they're really on form right now. And the other one was a draw against Antalya a couple of weeks ago. So they've done very well to climb up to, I think, 12th position now. But if you look at the points from 12th all the way down to where Akhisar are, there's only about a point between most clubs. So it's going to be a really nail-biting next few months for the teams in the latter half of the table. But Rizzo will be one to watch going forward, I think.
Yeah, Atif Şeşu, of course, getting on the score sheet there for Bursaspor in the first half, and that's quite interesting for you, Burak. And then Okechukwu Azabuike getting on the score sheet in the second half in the 78th minute. And it has to be said, Atif Şeşu already wearing the captain's armband at Rize now, of course, coming from Fenerbahçe in January, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it might have been a capital mistake on Fenerbahçe's part because they gave away a good player for a team like that to a team that they're currently kind of in the dogfight with for relegation. That might not have been the smartest move on their part.
Well, how many smart moves have we made this season, to be fair? So,
yeah,
I hope that the Atif situation doesn't come back to bite us on the arse, but we have to wait and see. And like this, the fact that he's been given the captain's armband straight away, maybe he's shown up to this and someone's just put an arm around him and done a much better job of managing him to be able to get the best out of his talents, which he certainly does have.
Yeah, I think he was spectacular at Sivasspor, of course, but I never really saw him as a top club level player, and I never really got the transfer, if I'm quite honest with you. I think there's just players that can really stand out in a certain level of club in the same league, but then when they make that next step to the top teams, they can't really cope with that pressure, or they just don't have the intricate quality to really make it there. But let's get to the next game. The evening game on Saturday was Fenerbahçe against Atikar Konyaspor. And Atikar Konyaspor, of course, one of those candidates to play Europa League football next season, or maybe even Champions League football. We'll have to wait and see. But this match ends all square with Adis Yahovic getting a red card for Konyaspor in the first half in the 33rd minute. But it was Konyaspor who took the lead through Fofana in the 36th minute, I'm sorry. But Fenerbahçe get the equalizer in the first minute of first half stoppage time through Gilson, and then there were no more goals in this match. Two major VAR decisions. One was, of course, the Adisjaovic red card, and the second one was a disallowed goal from Alper Putuk in the 85th minute. That was disallowed for an offside call, I believe, on Mehmet Topal. And then, of course, there was that non-VAR call in the 12th minute where Martin Skrtel got a yellow card. Let's talk about that. Did you guys see that?
Well, that was just Eastern European Kung Fu at its finest. I mean, he flew in. I believe both feet left the ground.
Yeah.
You saw the guy's leg, after the game. Yeah. So his studs have made contact. And I mean, how Fenerbahçe has not given that as a red card with the help of VAR. I mean, I like Skrtel. I always kind of liked him at Liverpool because he was a bit of a thug. The shaved head's quite aggressive, and I like an aggressive, centre back. Having had the likes of Luciano and Lugano play for us. Mm-hmm. So, but what's he thinking doing that? I mean, you've just come back from a red card for elbowing someone, and you think that is a good idea to launch yourself. I mean, I know Sudak kind of launched himself against St. Petersburg in a similar fashion, but took the ball completely and was not anywhere near the opposing player's leg. Mm-hmm. But you see it in GIF format, and you see it slowed down, and then you look at Jahovic's red card, and you think, well, he's got it completely wrong. And I know it's down to the referee's interpretation using VAR, but if you're not interpreting that as a red, and you've seen it from the different angles and in slow motion, then what can I say? It was it's just a shocking decision, and probably kind of to appease us for the decisions we've had go against us in the past few weeks. But it's an old age term, two wrongs don't make a right. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how he's not given Skrtel a red for that. So
yeah, I absolutely agree, and I think, funnily enough, the VAR is actually reducing the quality of our refereeing. This is probably a conversation for a different episode, because I'm sure we can talk for hours about this. But there's definitely no correlation between VAR usage and increasing quality of refereeing. At least what we've seen so far.
I don't agree with that, actually. I think the overall quality has gone up this season of the refereeing. I think referees are far more confident to make decisions now. I do have the impression that the refereeing quality has gone up overall, but there just have been a couple of sore thumbs that have stuck out. Like one of the biggest mistakes I can recall was that Konyaspor penalty against Galatasaray. That was absolutely no penalty, and then there's no VAR. I think the worst thing isn't so much that when VAR intervenes. I think when it doesn't intervene, because here with the Skrtel position, VAR didn't do anything. There was no check. There was no, hey, come take a look at this here. Because, first and foremost, of course, Firat is standing like 5 meters away from it. He's seeing it. He's got a, front row seat for the show, and he doesn't send them off. That's the first big red flag. But then I think the worst part is that the VAR does not intervene there. Whereas I do have to say, the Adisjaovic, I think that was a correct decision, has to be sent off. But it just feels weird that the VAR seems to be selective at times.
Well, go back to when we played Başakşehir in Istanbul. Yeah, that was a game I was at, because we were out for the Ternava game on a Thursday, and we went to Başakşehir on Sunday, and they had a goal disallowed for offside. Yeah. And we were watching it live in the stadium, so we don't get the benefit of the replay. But going back to the hotel, I went to a shisha cafe afterwards, as all Turks do after football, I guess, to smoke and let off some steam, right? And I'm watching it on the beIN Sports app. It's like he's so onside, it's funny. And apparently VAR had gone offline at that point. Yeah. And I'm like,
that was the official word. The last 16 minutes it was offline, supposedly.
I mean, that is going back to like mid-90s Ali Shan type comedy. So I don't know. So if Başakşehir end up losing the title, on the basis of a couple of points. They can point to that as one instance to say, well, we were robbed of 3 points.
That's probably the only point they'll get all season, though, where they got robbed of any points, I do have to say. But Fenerbahce, of course, playing 60, 70 odd minutes or something against 10 men, go behind. Fofana with a really nice goal, dribbles past Sadik with some nifty footwork, and of course his speed. We all know he's very pacey. But Fenerbahce pulled that goal back right before halftime, and then you do expect, okay, Fenerbahce is going to go up and over these guys, but a lot of pounding on the door in the second half, and of course that disallowed goal, which I'm going to ask your opinions about in just a minute, but no real end product except for that disallowed goal, of course, despite some offensive substitutions. I think Andre Ayew came on as well. Of course, Soldado was suspended here. What did you guys think of the disallowed goal of Alper Potuk?
I thought it was offside. I've seen it on the slow motion, and you can clearly see when the ball's played in. I think there's one or two of our players that are in front of the last Konyaspor defender. So I don't see any issue with the goal being disallowed.
Yeah, I initially thought there was a handball there, but I don't know if there was as well. But yeah, not much to say, I think. And then let's move on to Sunday then. Sunday results. There was one in particular that really stood out, and that was the Erzurumspor against Sivasspor. Erzurumspor winning emphatically 4-2 against Demir Group Sivasspor, who are still kind of in contention for European football, but they've kind of been on a downward slope as well since January. Of course, they sold off Robinho. A very important result for Erzurumspor, their first win of 2019 in an emphatic way, no less. 2 goals from Samuel Eduk, who they got from Kasımpaşa, I believe, in January. But the most noteworthy thing probably came after the match when coach Shifo Mehmet Özdilek, of course, was asked about the match, and he said, quote, "Very disappointing defeat." But it's just one match. We'll have to look forward to the next game. And one of the journalists in the room said, "Sir, you won today." Oh, right, sorry. But it's just one win. We'll have to look forward to the next game. So that was absolutely brilliant. I thought that was for me the highlight of match day of the match day, perhaps even. Did you?
That was absolutely hilarious. These are the reasons why we love Turkish football.
I mean, that was just like straight out of a Kemal Sunal film. It's like you've watched your team win the match, Schifo. You've literally watched yourselves win, and it's almost like he's gone into autopilot mode.
Right, exactly.
He's got his prepared script that he repeats. Yeah. It's one game, we have to look ahead to the next game. And it's like, and there's like, oh, we won. Well, it's only one game, we have to look ahead to it. He's just changed his words slightly.
He just expected to lose so much. He was preconditioned to think he was going to lose. Like you said, he had the script in his mind. He just blurted it out, thinking he'd lost the game. He just defies belief.
I do have to say, though, I've been rather impressed with Erzurumspor in 2019. And, actually, I don't think they belong to be that low on the table with that little points. They have gotten very unlucky this season. I think they've played some good football throughout the season, not just in 2019, but they've been left empty-handed in many games, or in some games where they perhaps should have gotten a win. They got just a point. Same thing was true for Rizespor, but they've really picked up steam now. And the scoring procedure here for this match was they opened the score in the 4th minute through Yasmin Suk in the 4th minute, but then Sergej Rybalka equalizes, and then we saw the first goal of Eduk just before the half-hour mark, and they go into the lead 2-1 at half-time, but then Sivasspor get one back pretty quickly in the second half. In the 58th minute, they pulled things level. But then we saw another goal from Samuel Eduk late in the match already. That was on the hour mark, and then a little bit later we saw Obertan make his first goal. Of course, the former Manchester United wonderkid. I don't know if I can call him that, but
you can't call it that. You're forbidden from calling it that.
But 4-2 full time, Erzurumspor, great result. And let's move on to the next one, because I watched this match start to finish, and this was a very entertaining match. Trabzonspor Alanyaspor 0-2. Alanyaspor really the black sheep. The Trabzonspor losing at home to Alanyaspor, and this was the 6th time they played against Alanyaspor, and they've only won once. And I believe they lost 4 times already. They're really their black sheep. And did you guys manage to catch this game because it was spectacular? I would like to say.
I was out all weekend,
okay.
So I literally caught most of the stuff on the highlights.
Let me sketch it for you. Trabzonspor dominating early on. They win a penalty. I believe, was it the start of the second half that they got that penalty? Yeah, that was just in the 46th minute or so. They won a penalty. After already having dominated pretty much the first half, but not really creating that many clear-cut chances. It was one really good one for Abdulkadir Umur with a good first-time shot, but saved by Haidar. Second half, they start off immediately with a penalty. Hugo Rodallega, second in the goal king standings, way behind, of course, Diagne, with 11 goals, and Diagne already on 21, of course, so 10-goal deficit there. But he steps up to the plate, steps up for the penalty. He tries a Panenka, hits the top bar, and then, of course, as the ultimate Schlemil, I don't know how to call it, he taps in the rebound, and of course goal disallowed because penalty takers cannot tap in a rebound that does not come off the goalkeeper, so it came off the bar. No goal, free kick to Alanyaspor. 2 minutes later, bam, at the other end, Papi Cisse, former Newcastle United man, of course, puts Alanyaspor in front, and then later on in the second half we saw Cisse again for the second goal, and this was one of those matches where, I don't know, I think we've all had them where I remember a game where, I don't know if it was this season or so, where Beşiktaş, it was this season, I think. Beşiktaş got a penalty early on, Ozan Yozyakup misses it, and then they end up losing the game, and it just kind of felt like that here for Trabzonspor, where they had it in their own hands, they get a penalty, if they score that, they're probably always going to win this match, and it ends up 2-0 at home, a defeat to another struggling side that have been on form lately, Alanyaspor, of course, coached by Sergen Yalçın.
I just say I absolutely love it when someone tries a Panenka and it fails.
It's real cringe, isn't it? I mean, when you pull it off, it looks great, but
I mean, because Zidane nearly, in that World Cup final 2006 against Italy, he was so lucky his Panenka winning off the bar.
Yeah,
but
and then I have to add to that, Rodallega has taken 7 penalties and he's missed 4 now, so maybe he should keep it a little simple next time.
That's quite a shocking statistic. I wouldn't let him take penalties.
No, exactly. And then the next match was Kayserispor against Göztepe, and this was an important match. Both teams on 25 points before kickoff. And so was Alanyaspor, by the way. So all 3 of these, Göztepe, Alanyaspor, and Kayserispor, were on 25 points, just 1 point above the relegation zone heading into this match day. Kayserispor ended up winning this one 2-1, their second consecutive home victory. And they, with that, give themselves some breathing space, as do Alanyaspor, now 4 points above the bar. A good result for Kayseri, but Göztepe, very a team with history as well, lots of fans. They're kind of getting into that danger zone now, just 1 point above the bar. They did get a lead equalizer in the 82nd minute, Göztepe did, but Kayserispor did find a winner in the 88th minute, and they do get themselves some precious 3 points there.
Yeah, and the sharp decline of Göztepe is really starting to worry me too, because like you said, they're a team like Ankaragücü that I really admire and respect, and I really want to see them doing well. But they haven't won a game since December, I think before Christmas even, and it's a shame to see them struggling so much, because they are really going to be in a dangerous position in the coming weeks if they don't turn things around.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Göztepe can go to hell, especially after what Cameron Jerome did to Sudik.
Right.
So that's boiled my blood, and especially after Shamil from Kayseri took out Ekici for like 4 to 6 weeks. I have no love for either of those clubs.
You just don't like clubs whose colours are red and yellow.
Hey, none of you, in the Fenerbahçe match, none of your players injured our players. We just had a nice little game of touch rugby at the end.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's true. That reminds me of that fantastic press conference Fenerbahçe did to introduce their new players, and where who was it that asked Serdar Aziz who the fastest player of Galatasaray was because nobody could catch Gelson? That was That was class.
It's Roman. That's probably the best thing he's done all season, to be fair.
Let's move on to the main event of Sunday, and that was Kasımpaşa against Galatasaray. This one ends as the first match did between these two teams, 4-1 in favor of Galatasaray. It kind of gave off the impression of being competitive the first 15 minutes when Mahmut Trezeguet curled in a brilliant free kick on the edge of the area, past the wall in. Probably Muslera should have had it though, but very nice free kick from Trezeguet. He once again confirms his quality with that, and I think he was pretty much the only man on Kasımpaşa that was really showing what he's capable of. But Galatasaray up and over Kasımpaşa. First it was Belhanda with a fantastic shot from outside the box, very hard. Maybe Skufet could have done something about it. It was quite central, I think, but so well struck that I don't blame the Italian goalkeeper too much there. And then Feghouli with a hat-trick. So that's not something you'll see every day.
I'd say, well, not just every day, but we're unlikely to see it again anytime soon, I'd say. My dislike for Belhanda has been well publicized, shall we say?
Well documented, indeed.
Well documented, indeed, since he signed for Galatasaray. But I'm perfectly happy to admit that was probably his best performance in a red and yellow jersey. Yep. While I would also agree, however, that the goalkeeper should have done better in saving his shot for his first goal at the weekend. But look, as long as he's contributing to the team, making assists, and at least shooting the ball on the target, trying to score goals, then I'll keep my complaints down to a minimum. But let's keep things in perspective. This is away against Kasımpaşa, who sold their best player to us.
Yeah.
They're basically toothless going forward, apart from Trezeguet. And if guys like Belhanda and Feghouli want to gain the respect and the adoration of fans, then they need to be performing like this in Europe on Thursday against Benfica. Because against Kasımpaşa, we expect to win those games anyway. They need to step up and really take responsibility in Europe.
I did go into this match expecting exactly what happened. Kasımpaşa have been were kind of the revelation of the season, the first half of the season, where they did brilliantly for the first, say, 15 weeks or so, and they were second in the rankings behind Başakşehir, and there was all this talk of the new Istanbul revolution with both Başakşehir and Kasımpaşa, standing proud at the top, but we have seen a strong decline in Kasımpaşa's form, of course, that came right after they trashed my Beşiktaş 4-1, but they've lost all 5 of their matches in 2019 now. They gathered 29 points in the first half of the season, which for them I think is tremendous, but they might have to look down soon. The relegation zone still 5 points away for them, but given their form right now, it wouldn't surprise me if they get involved in that tussle anytime soon. So let's move on to Monday, unless Burak, you have anything to add on this match.
No, I just think Ozzy should be thanking Giles because he looks like he slapped some sense into Belhanda, and he's put in some great performances. But Feghouli hat-trick, I mean, I was looking at the results as they were coming in because I was driving at the time, and every time I'd stop at a red light, I'd look at live score, and the goal count kept going up. Now I was thinking, okay, has Diagne scored? Has Diagne scored? No, it was Feghouli just banged in a hat trick, and I thought, bloody hell, he's done well.
And actually, his form has really improved since the Porto match, since the home match we played in the Champions League. So there's definitely been great contribution he's made in the last month or so.
He definitely has been stepping up to the plate lately. Maybe the only thing we could still talk about when it comes to this match is Mbaye Diagne perhaps a little bit underwhelming so far for Galatasaray?
Yeah, underwhelming. I mean, he scored 1 goal on his debut, the penalty, which is fair enough. That's good to get off the mark. But his contribution is quite lackluster. He seems quite lazy, quite static up front. he's had a few pretty good chances to score from open play, and he's hit it wide. And I think the more worrying thing is his body language, his facial expression. He seems kind of annoyed and angry and complacent a lot. He's really on the edge when it comes to his discipline as well. He could have been sent off twice in the last 2 games, quite frankly, and probably should have been too. So I think Terim really needs to give him a serious talking to make sure that he doesn't become a liability for us, because we have a lot of important games coming up very soon. So if we're gonna have to start winning these games, so we're gonna need Diagne to be on top form mentally as well as physically.
Yeah, I'm predicting he scores against Benfica.
Really?
Let's hope so.
Yeah. I think he's going to get a brace. Actually, like 2 goals.
It's music to my ears. But are we going to keep a clean sheet? That's the other question.
So next week we'll determine whether Burak is a seer or a jinx. Let's move on to the last match of the match day. That was on Monday, where the beloved by all leaders Başakşehir take on Antalyaspor in Antalya, and this match ends 0-1. This match finished only a couple of hours ago. Başakşehir with another narrow victory, edging out Antalyaspor here 1-0 through a goal of their debuting left back, whose name eludes me right now, the Russian guy. He got the goal for Başakşehir, and it was I don't know if you managed to watch this, guys, but it was a pretty even game, I'd say, although Başakşehir is quite wasteful at times, but Antalyaspor also having their chances right before the opening goal. They had a couple of big chances, but Başakşehir showing their quality and sense of organization and their ability to sit on a 1-goal lead and just, bring it over the finish line.
Yeah, I did actually catch this game, and I agree that it was relatively even match. Actually, Antalya impressed me quite a bit, also because they were able to almost fill up their stadium, at their home stadium, compared to Başakşehir, who sold 1 ticket, according to the rumors, which is, I mean, ridiculous.
There's a picture
laughable.
of that.
It's a joke. Yeah, there's a picture of the guy sitting, watching the game. So I think Antalya, they whipped in a lot of balls into the box, but they were really quite aimless balls. They just didn't have enough quality in the final third to cause Başakşehir much trouble. But
no real striker.
No real striker, indeed. But the useful thing, what it does show, is that Başakşehir in defence can be unwrapped with some ease. If you have a little bit of quality up front, you can cause Başakşehir damage.
Yeah, I think so too.
And Antalya, without that quality, almost did that a couple of times. So it should be something that should be studied by Galatasaray and Beşiktaş in the next couple of weeks going forward.
And it was Fedor Kudryashov who scored on his debut for Başakşehir, by the way. Just looked it up quickly. Burak, did you manage to catch the game, or were you in the car? You were in the car. Why am I asking? I know.
This was Monday night's game, wasn't it?
This was today, yeah.
This is day. I was on a train.
Right, in the train. Oh, excuse me, pardon my ignorance.
It's train, so I was just keeping
Get it
up.
right, Kaan.
Exactly, the right form of transport. So I was in the I was on the train on the way back. So when the games are early kickoffs, it's quite tough for me to try and watch the Friday or the Monday ones. So if Fenerbahçe are scheduled to play on a Friday or Monday, then I try to work from home that day.
On that note, you should put that on your calendar for next Monday then.
It's already been requested and approved.
Excellent. Oh, good man.
Requested and approved. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll see come the end of the match if that was the right decision or not, I guess.
Now, before we jump into the standings now, I just want to say this about Başakşehir, because they've gotten so much praise in the media in the last, I don't know how many months, but I do have to say, 35 points. Okay, it should have probably been 37 because of that disallowed goal against Fenerbahçe, but not a spectacular run in the first half of the season, in my opinion. Just a very weak performance from both Galatasaray and Beşiktaş, and of course, Fenerbahçe. I think they have not really impressed me this season, Başakşehir. Coming out of the gate in 2019, there were a couple of impressive performances from them where they won pretty easily, but Erzurumspor last week they struggled a lot. You could see that there was nervosity within the team, especially when they conceded. They were very nervous. And again today, I mean, it definitely wasn't. They did win. They held out, but this could have very easily ended 1-1, I think. Could have also ended 2-0 because they missed quite a few chances. But I can't help but feel that Galatasaray and even Beşiktaş still have a chance despite the gap. Of course, the gap being 6 points to Galatasaray, 9 to Beşiktaş. And let's get into the standings unless either of you want to chime in on Başakşehir's impressiveness or lack thereof.
I just want to know.
Nothing really additional from my side, no.
I think you're quite right, Kaan. The Galatasaray and Beşiktaş not playing to their best in the first half of the season and having a few results go against them is probably why Başakşehir are as far away as they are. Because you know Fenerbahçe is just a horror show, so let's just forget us for the time being. We're trying to avoid relegation down there, but with Galatasaray and Beşiktaş, if they had had a few decisions go their way or had managed to pick up a few more points, then it would be a lot tighter at the top. And I mean, no one really wants to see Başakşehir win the league.
No, that's the thing. I mean, nobody really has any sympathy for this club. They don't even have their own fans. If it was literally any other Turkish club, then they'd be able to wrap up some sympathy from opposing fans or whatever, but there's nothing, like Bursa, apart from Fenerbahçe that season, everyone wanted Bursa to do well, because it was going to cause, something memorable for Turkish football. It was going to cause some progress, give a bit of diversity, variation, etc. But Başakşehir are quite literally a fake club. They don't even have fake fans. They have no fans. So it would be a real travesty for Turkish football. Although I would just like to say that I am a big fan of Abdullah Avcı. I think he's a great coach and he has a very bright future. So if they were to win the league, I suppose I could be pleased for him on a personal level. But other than that,
I mean, he's tied his future to this club, really. He just signed a 5-year extension.
That's true.
And is he really that good? He gets hyped so much. To me, in the past couple of seasons, he's kind of been exposed a few times. First, Tek Advocaat really exposed him. Aykut Kocaman did it too last season. I think with Başakşehir is they have a really good plan A. But if that doesn't work, every game where their plan A seems to fail, Avcı doesn't have those tactical injections that suddenly manage to turn things around. It doesn't really have a plan B or a plan C. For example, he's really had Şenol Güneş's number, but Şenol Güneş has been absolutely, he's flat out refused to adjust to Avcı. And I think the thing with Avcı is if you adjust to him and show him the proper respect, like Advocaat and Aykut did, you can really make it difficult for them, especially if you have the quality at your disposal in terms of players. So I'm not on that bandwagon. I respect what he's done. I think he's a good coach, but I don't... Like some people call him the Turkish Diego Simeone. I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a stretch, especially given his, abysmal European record.
And not just that, I mean...
Sabotages the club.
Not just that, it chokes under pressure too. I mean, 2 years ago, they were fighting with Beşiktaş for the title. They were kind of in a lost position, and then they played Beşiktaş. I think they were like 7 points or so behind, or 4 points. I don't remember exactly. And it was kind of like do or die for them. And then you can see that when it's do or die, and it's their last chance, kind of they're coming from this underdog role, then they can get that win. But as soon as they got into a good position again, they just started dropping the points and choking under pressure. And I think that's what happened last season too, where in my opinion it was theirs to win, because Galatasaray early on, I mean, they had a new team, very new team, and they were not always as good on the road, especially under Tudor. I think Başakşehir dropped a lot of points there where they probably could have won the league as well. And again this season, I think the thing for them now is heading into this final 4 to 5 weeks. If they can have a decent lead, I think they'll probably end up winning it. But I think if they have, like, say, a 4-point lead heading into those final 4 weeks and they still have to go away to Galatasaray, I don't think it's gonna happen for them if that's gonna be the case. But let's head into the standings quickly. Başakşehir, of course, top of the table with 48 points. Second is Galatasaray with 42 points, 6 points behind the leaders. Then there's another 3-point drop off to Beşiktaş, and then we have a 5-point drop off to fourth place, and that's Malatyaspor. But also Atikar Konyaspor are on 34 points, and we also have Trabzonspor at 33, and then Sivasspor at 31 points. So those teams are competing for European football for that fourth spot, which gives right to Europa League qualifiers. I think currently, in my opinion, the favorite is probably Konyaspor because they have looked the most solid out of these teams. Let's go down to the bottom of the table. Of course, that bottom is Akhisar with 18 points. Then we have Erzurumspor with 21 points, of course, after their win this weekend. And then we have a couple of teams that are all on 24 points. There's Ankaragücü, Fenerbahçe, and Bursaspor, who are on 24 points. And then we have Göztepe, Çaykur Rizespor, who are on 25. And then Alanyaspor and Kayseri are on 28. So they're... for the moment at least, seem to be safe. Antalyaspor is on 29, and so is Kasımpaşa. So that's the entire table. Very interesting at the bottom, very not so interesting at the top at the moment, I'd say. We do need another slip-up or so from Başakşehir before it gets really interesting. But that bottom, that relegation battle is great to watch if you're not a Fenerbahçe fan, I think. Oh, and a fan of the other teams, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that the top three are just going to wrestle amongst themselves, so the teams in there won't really move around much, apart from amongst each other. But looking down, it's going to be a really exciting finish to the season. I mean, every week, the 14th, 15th, 16th position could change.
Yeah.
Actually, even up from 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. And it's a shame because the clubs in that bracket are Göztepe, Bursa, Fener, and Ankaragücü. So all teams with good, solid fan bases, and who should really be punching much higher than they are right now. So
yeah, the slip of Bursaspor especially, right?
Yeah. Every
been
match is going to be a final, as I say.
Yeah, for sure. Let's look at next week's fixtures. Initially, we have 2 games on Friday. It's going to be Göztepe, who take on Trabzonspor at 8:30 local time. Çaykur Rizespor take on Malatyaspor. That's an interesting game, perhaps not for the relegation zone. I think not so much. So that's the games on Friday. Göztepe, of course, would do well to get a result there. Both matches are at 8:30 local time. That'll be that's 5:30 in the UK, I believe.
That's correct. Yeah.
And 6:30 in Central European time. I'm not going to figure out what it is in Eastern Standard or all that stuff. That's too complicated. Then on Saturday we have Demirgroup Sivasspor at 1:30 local time against Antalyaspor. We have Alanyaspor at 4 o'clock local time against Kasımpaşa. That's going to be an interesting match, I think. Başakşehir against Bursaspor. That's another important match at 7 local time. Bursaspor would do well to get a point or 3. And then on Sunday, we have another bunch of games. Ankaragücü takes on Erzurumspor at 1:30. We have Konyaspor taking on Kayserispor at 4. And then we have Galatasaray taking on dead last Akhisar at 7. But Akhisar have proven to be a thorn in Galatasaray's side in recent months. They've beaten them, in the Super Cup, in the Cup final, and in the league this season, I think. So definitely not... a shoe-in for a win there, but Galatasaray at home, of course, strong. And then on Monday, we have probably the biggest match of this matchday 23. We have Beşiktaş taking on Fenerbahçe at 9 o'clock local time. That's it for this weekend. Which games jump out to you guys, except for, of course, the obvious one?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be watching that game with the popcorn in my hand, as one of you guys alluded to earlier on. So whatever happens, I'm looking forward to that one. But I'm actually quite keen to see Konya Kayseri. I think that could be a good game.
Yeah, for sure. Konya, of course, will want to get a win now after I think 2 draws in a row, and they want to get that European ticket for sure. I think.
Yeah, I like watching Konya when they play at home. They always have
for sure.
Passionate fans, good atmosphere, and I think that they're in a good position to get that 4th spot.
Okay. Burak, any match that jumps out to you except for the derby, of course?
Well, I've got all my eggs in one basket for the derby. I like to see Malatya and Konya do well because they're managed by ex-Fenerbahçe players. I enjoyed seeing when Konya played Malatyaspor, just because it always reminds me of the 2-1. Yeah, and it's Erol and Aykut, and that's like the 95-96 season goal when Erol crossed it in, Aykut heads it in 2-1, which
Trabzonspor's dreams were shattered.
Indeed. So I remember watching that on TV with my family in St Albans, where I live. So that's always got fond memories. But looking forward to the derby. I mean, Soldado's going to be back, so I think we should start him. I would have liked to have seen Zaitskot get more time against Konyaspor. I'd expect him to start. But we're playing at Vodafone, and that's just a cauldron of noise. And I just hope that it's a good game, because there's been bad blood for the last couple of seasons for various reasons, referees, players, coaches, chairman. I'm just hoping, Ali Koch goes there with his group of men and they have a good, just sit down dinner before the game, and we see a good game of football with very little controversy. Yeah, I mean, you expect a bit of bite because it's a derby, so there'll be some challenges going in, but I think as long as the players try not to lose their heads, for me, looking at it as a fan, looking at our performances and looking at how Besiktas have been playing in their form, we're going to Russia as well on the 21st, which should be good. So there might be, we might have some injuries to think about potentially if someone gets messed up by a flying Russian challenge over there.
Well, Skrtel did play for Zenit, so maybe he learned it there.
Exactly, and they've got Ivanovic as well, who's quite beefy and he likes getting stuck in. So hopefully, we come back with little injuries. But I would start Soldado up front, and I would start with Dindjer and Moses. I would bench Ayew because I just think
Dindjer was good against Konya.
Yeah, and he seems to have built up a good understanding with Isla on the right-hand side. Now, Isla can attack a little bit more. But he does like getting booked as well. So
that doesn't matter in these derbies there. You're allowed to get booked. But yeah, I think that'll cover our coverage for this match day of the Turkish Super League. And, of course, our European. We all already kind of previewed the return legs. Is there anything else you guys want to add before we close the show out? The first one.
So we had Alex de Souza return to Fenerbahçe at the weekend, and it was just good to see him and Aykut both come out with statements to put to bed any bad blood, because there have been God knows how many rumours going around with the way Alex left the club when Aykut was manager, and that's hung over the club for a while. It's hung over Alex's head, it's hung over Aykut's head. So it was good to see Alex return and have a smile on his face, be positive, meet the players. And then you had Aykut's press conference saying there are no issues, that we worked together in a tough time. And then you had Alex's posts on social media saying I've got no bad feelings, I just remember the good times. And hopefully that just puts the nail in the coffin of any more rumours and internal fights between Fenerbahçe fans to say, look, these guys they've kissed and made up, they're grown adults, now let's worry about finishing off the rest of the season. So from a Fenerbahçe fan perspective, that was nice to see. And I think Alex is one of the greatest foreign players to play in the Turkish league.
No doubt, yeah.
Yeah,
no doubt, yeah.
So it's good to see that almost reach like a happy, what's a happy closure, shall we say? And just to see him smiling with all his 56 teeth again, which is a sight we miss as Fenerbahçe fans.
For me, from actively watching, because I was quite young when Hagi was at Galatasaray, so for me, really, Alex, from what I've seen, is the GOAT in Turkish football. But of course, like I said, little asterisks there because I didn't really see Hagi that consciously as you two might have, but definitely Alex, fantastic player, and it was a shame how he left the club. So it's good to Fenerbahçe fans got some closure there. That'll do it for this episode, the first inaugural episode. Burak, thank you very much, and Ozzy, thank you very much. Please plug your personal Twitter account so people know where to find you on the Twitter.
I'm on Ataqoz, ATAQOZ, red and yellow.
And I am at Brachiosaurus. So it's a mixture of Burak, Io, and Saurus. And give me a follow. The talk will mainly be about football, wrestling, and food. So.
And for me, you can follow me, Kaan Bayazit, at Razerian, RAZZERIAN. I'm already well practiced in doing that, of course, guys. That'll do it for us. We don't really have a Twitter account yet for the podcast, but we will have one soon. We'll just have to see what kind of handle is available. But thank you for listening to the first inaugural episode of Football a la Turca. And we'll be back real soon next week, Tuesday. Again, thank you very much for listening, guys. Thank you very much for being part of this exciting new project, and I hope we'll be doing this for a very long time to come.
Yes, absolute pleasure. I'm sure it's the start of something beautiful.
Nice one, and good luck to you boys against Benfica midweek.
Yes,
was it?
Thanks so much, and good luck against Zenit.
Right, let's smash them and go through to the next round.
Yeah, and maybe we can meet each other in the last 16. That would be great.
There's into the final, maybe.
Yeah.
Then I'll be watching with popcorn.
Yeah.